I think the beautiful thing that we get to realize and kind of be grafted into is that the gospel doesn't change, is always relevant to no matter what culture what culture is doing, what people are saying, what people are doing. Like, the gospel doesn't change, but it's always relevant. Yeah, even from a young age, I always felt the call of the Lord to be a part of the church. Even as a kid, I grew up, my dad always trying to be a pastor. And so for me, that always felt like the highest calling was to be a pastor and to be in ministry. And part of that growing up was just this idea that in ministry, you could be a missionary or a pastor. For the longest time, I just thought it was you preached and you had a church, right? So that's what a pastor does. And for the longest time, that's what pastors did. They operated in all the fivefold ministry all by themselves because no one else was being elevated to be leaders and to be in leadership. And so for me, growing up, I just always thought, well, I'll never be that good of a pastor because I'm not that dynamic. It was just growing in that and then just realizing that, like, no, when it comes to being a pastor, like, I actually love people. And that's what pastors do. They shepherd people, they protect people, they walk through hard things with people. It has nothing to do with being a really good evangelist, it has nothing to do with being a really good teacher. Like, you operate in multiplicity of these things. But for me, I knew at the core of me that no, I am called to be a pastor, but I was also called to redefine what a pastor looked like. I've been waiting tables for 5 years now, and I've really enjoyed just serving people and serving the people I worked with, especially. Yeah, when the opportunity arose to be at Mustin Turner's, which is like the cornerstone restaurant in Smyrna, or like Smyrna's restaurant. Like, it's where all the regulars go. It's where everyone who claims to be a townie from Smyrna goes. It's a lot of long nights, early mornings, just long days, but I enjoy it. The way the church tends to isolate itself from the rest of the world, to not be integrated, to kind of do your own thing, separate yourself from your job that you don't like, but you have to do it to make money. My thing was, okay, yes, I have to do this job to make money and support my wife and my child, but at the same time, like, this is my mission field. Like, I want to live on mission towards the people at work. And I think so many of the conversations you have with people is, well, I don't like my job. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I think C.S. Lewis said it best, and it's like, when you say you don't love somebody, he said, well, do things for them, serve them, tell yourself that you love them, and you'll come to love them. The more you serve someone, the more you interact with them, the more you tell yourself that you love them and you give yourself away to them, you will love them. You'll emotionally come to love them. That was very important, just to be like, I love my workplace. I love the people I work with. You know, what happened was I actually did love it. I joked with my wife. She was like, well, you would wait tables the rest of your life. And I was like, yeah, I would, because I told myself I love doing this. Like, I love the people I work with. I love the people I'm serving. I love what I'm doing because I feel like I'm dedicating that to the Lord. So for me, being a pastor at a restaurant is what I feel like I'm doing in this season, to minister to people, to serve people, like, to do my job the best way possible in order to make the restaurant thrive, like, in order to bring in more money for the restaurant, but also serve people so they have a great experience. Like, these little things that on the grand scheme might not seem like a lot, but I know the difference they make and the impact it has on people's lives. But I think the hard parts come when you try to explain it to people, what it's like to be a missionary to your city, to your workplace. And so I have a degree I'm not using, and, you have to tell people, oh, no, I choose to wait tables. People say, well, why would you want to do that? Well, I want to be a missionary to my city. And so I think it's hard when you're not a missionary to another country, or someone that's like a third world country, where people get to support you. Like, I mean, even have the conversation of what it would look like to raise funds to, like, be a missionary to Atlanta, and how hard and awkward that would be to, like, raise funds to be a missionary where I live. People don't understand that. People don't understand that, like, we're living here in order to be Jesus to our neighbors. And And that's hard. We've sacrificed jobs, both me and my wife, to do things that would pay a lot more. People say, "Are you crazy?" And you get to have these hard conversations. These are the conversations that we get to have because we're choosing to follow Jesus in this radical way. A lot of the times, that's where people get lost, is they don't realize how radically they actually get to follow Jesus in their 9 to 5, in their in and outs of the daily rhythms of what they view as the mundane, and whereas they view like a mission trip or something else as the height of like their Christian walk, or like these one-off experiences. Like, no, you actually get to do this every day. Like, every day gets to be a radical journey with Jesus because of what you're choosing to sacrifice. I think the switch came when I just looked around and realized that these people weren't ever going to set foot inside of a church. These people I'm working with, these people I'm seeing in the restaurant, aren't just going to willingly go into a church. And I looked around and I was the only Christian in my workplace. And all of a sudden, I realized, if you're the only Christian there, that's your mission field. Like, if you're the only Christian, that's your job to be Jesus to these people. A lot of the times we displace the responsibility to someone else. Well, someone else will do it. I believe the Lord works in all things, and I think He can. But at the end of the day, if you're the only one that's a Christian in your workplace, like, that's the Lord's put you there to minister to those people. Yeah, the consistency that takes place when you just, over time, day in, day out, you walk through life with people, and you get to be that source of Jesus for people. And even, I mean, man, there's been people I walked with same job, same place for 3 years, and but then one day they call you out of the blue when something major in their life happens, because you were the only one that was there. Like, you were the only one they trusted to like be positive in their life. And then you get to pray with that person, and then you get to like make a radical, change in their life. And then, like, they don't know it's Jesus, but like they know there's something different about you when they have that conversation. Like, hey, I called you because you were the only person I knew who was positive. Like, that's a difference too. And if we're not willing to start there, in the little places and the small things with people, it's gonna be a really hard jump to start preaching the gospel, like, and going up to people and just saying, hey, can I pray for you, when we don't look any different than the culture we're a part of. We haven't had a need to be the source of renewal for our cities. And I think in this day and age, when so many things are broken, so many broken homes, so many broken families, just broken industries, like, I think that's where this part of the gospel narrative comes into play. I think the reason we push on and we push in is because Jesus is worth it, and Jesus is faithful, and He's always provided all of our needs. I don't want to settle for anything less than giving 100% of my life to Jesus. And it's been hard. It's been hard to walk through this. There's been seasons where I feel like we're not going to make it, and it's too hard, and I want to give up, and my wife feels like it's too hard and we want to give up. But it's, at the end of the day, coming back to Jesus, spending time with Him, and realizing, no, this is where we're supposed to be. My heart for the people that are in my realm of life, so anyone I have the capacity to reach, have a conversation with, know at any point, I'm just not willing to let them go without knowing Jesus, or without knowing the goodness that a Christian can bring through living out obedience towards Jesus. I'm just not willing to settle for anything less than that. I want to know what it feels like to be fully immersed in following Jesus, and even in the weirdest of ways, where, like I said, we're not living in a hut, we're not, sacrificing food or we have luxuries or anything like that. Like, we have Netflix, like, so we're great. But at the end of the day, like, it's the way that Jesus has called us to follow Him, and we're going to be obedient to that, even when it gets hard.